fuck did you wake me up? I was fucking asleep. It's 9 o'clock. It's past 9 by now. Why the fuck are you awake? You can't sleep. Well, I could sleep fine. You woke me up because you couldn't sleep. Oh my god. What can I do? What could I fucking do to help you? I can't, like, magically get you to sleep. Go find someone with a fucking quirk. You want me to read to you? Are you serious? What are you, 10? Shitty hair did it, and it helped. Even if I were to. Not saying that I would. Why should I? Like, you seriously can't sleep. Like, you can't. And you need someone to read to you to sleep. Is that what you're saying? Why me? I'm not fucking calm or anything. Okay. You know what? I'll do it. Why not? Why fucking not? I need to be better with civilians, and you're my test subject now. Okay. Where's the book? Over here. Throne of Glass. Yeah, that should be comfortable. By Sarah J. Maas. Okay. Whatever. Okay, why not? Let's just get this fucking over with. What, do I just read you like a chapter or something? Chapters look actually pretty short. I'll read to you until you fall asleep, I guess. Okay. You want to see the map. Okay. Happy now? You don't know these fucking places. They don't exist. Whatever. Chapter 1. After a year of slavery in the salt mines of Endovier, Selena Sardothine was was accustomed to being escorted everywhere in shackles and at sword point. Most of the thousands of slaves in Endovier received similar treatment, though an extra half-dozen guards always walked Selena to and from the mines. That was expected by our Darlin's most notorious assassin. She's a fucking assassin. Okay, this got more and more interesting. What she did not usually expect, however, was a hooded man in black by her side. As there was now. Mysterious. He gripped her arm as he led her through the shining building in which most of Endovier's officials and overseers were housed. Shut up. They strode down corridors, up flights of stairs, and all around and around until she hadn't the slightest chance of finding her way out again. At least that's what her escort's intentions. That I can read. Okay, I can read. At least that was her escort's intention, because she hadn't failed to notice when they went up and down the same staircase within a matter of minutes, nor had she missed when they zigzagged between levels, even though the building was the standard grid of hallways and stairwells. She's pretty smart. Hero material almost. As if she'd lose her bearings that easily. I like her. She might have been insulted if he wasn't trying so hard. They entered a particularly long hallway. Silent save for their footsteps. I don't even know what that fucking means. Silent save for their footsteps. Okay, whatever. Though the man grasping her arm was tall and fit, she could see nothing of the features concealed beneath his hood. Another tactic meant to confuse and intimidate her. The black clothes were probably a part of it too. His head shifted in her direction, and Selena flashed at him a grin. He looked forward again, his iron grip tightening. It was flattering, she supposed, even if she didn't know what was happening, or why he'd been waiting for her outside the mine shaft. After a day of cleaving rock salt from the innards of the mountain, finding him standing there with 6 guards hadn't improved her mood. But her ears had pricked when he introduced himself to the overseer as Chow? I don't know. Fucking coal looking motherfucker. Chaol. I don't know how the fuck to pronounce that. Westfall, captain of the royal guard, and suddenly the sky loomed, the mountains pushed from behind, and even the earth swelled toward her knees. She hadn't tasted fear in a while, hadn't let herself taste fear. Oh shit. When she awoke every morning, she repeated the same words, I will not be afraid. Oh, I love this bitch. She's so badass. I literally just met her. I don't like the book. Whatever. Shut up. For a year, those words had meant the difference between breaking and bending. They had kept her from shattering in the darkness of the mines. Not that she had let the captain know any of that. Selenia exclaimed, the glove... Shut up. Selenia... I still don't know how to pronounce her name. Selena examined the gloved hand holding her arm. The dark leather almost matched the dirt on her skin. Ugh. She adjusted her torn and filthy tunic with her free hand and held in her sigh, entering the mines before sunrise, and departing after dusk. She rarely glimpsed the sun. Pale. Well then. She was frightfully pale beneath the dirt. It was true that she had been attractive once, beautiful even. But well, it didn't matter now, did it? Is this her? If she looks like that now, like, she still looks fucking good. Like, look at that fucking hair. Sorry. I mean, not. Just shut the fuck up. How about that? Shut the fuck up. They turned down another hallway, and she studied the stranger's finely crafted sword. Its shimmering pommel was shaped like an eagle mid-flight. Noticing her stare, his gloved hand descended to rest upon its golden head. Another smile tugged at the corner of her lips. Ooh. Well then. You're a long way from Rifthold, Captain, she said, clearing her throat. Did you come with the army I heard thumping around earlier? She peered into the darkness beneath his hood, but saw nothing. Still, she felt his eyes upon her, judging, weighing, testing. She stared right back. The captain of the royal guard would be an interesting opponent, maybe even worthy of some effort on her part. Fuck. Finally, the man raised his sword hand, and the folds of his cloak fell to conceal the blade. As his cloak shifted, and she spied the gold wyvern embroidered on his tunic, the royal seal. What do you care for the armies of Adarlan? These fucking made up places and names and shit. Goddamn. Adarlan, he replied. How lovely it was to hear a voice like her own, cool and articulate, even if it was a nasty brute. He was a nasty brute, whatever. Nothing, she said, shrugging. He let a low growl of annoyance. Oh, it'd be nice to spill his blood across the marble. She had lost her temper once before. Once. When her first overseer chose the wrong day to push her too hard, she still remembered the feeling of embedding the pickaxe into his gut and the stickiness of his blood on her hands and face. So she's like into it being an assassin, like really fucking into it. She could disarm 2 of these guards in a heartbeat. Would the captain fare better than her late overseer? Contemplating the potential outcomes, she grinned at him again. Don't you look at me like that, he warned. And his hand drifted back towards his sword. Selena hid her smirk this time. They passed a series of wooden doors that she'd seen a few minutes ago. If she wanted to escape, she'd simply have to turn left to the next hallway and take the stairs down 3 flights. The only thing all the intended disorientation had accomplished was to familiarize her with the building. Idiots. Selena is very intelligent. She kind of reminds me of me. I could do that. I could fucking do that. Where are we going again? She said, sweetly brushing a strand of her matted hair from her face. When he didn't reply, she clenched her jaw. The halls echoed too loudly for her to attack him without alerting the whole building. She hadn't seen where he'd put the key to her irons, and the 6 guards who trailed them would be nuisances. Not to mention the shackles. Shackles. Ugh. They entered a hallway hung with iron chandeliers. Outside the windows lining the wall, night had fallen, lanterns kindled so bright they offered a few shadows to hide in. From the courtyard, she could hear the other slaves shuffling toward the wooden building where they slept. The moans of agony amongst the clank of chains made a chorus as familiar as the dreary work songs they sang all day. The occasional solo of the whip added to the symphony of brutality Adarlan had created for its greatest criminals, poorest citizens, and latest conquests. Jesus, this place sounds like hell. While some of the prisoners were people accused of attempting to practice magic, not like they could, given that magic has vanished from the kingdom these days, more and more rebels arrived at Endeavor. Most were from Elwi, one of the last countries still fighting Adarlan's rule. But when she pestered them for news, many just stared at her with empty eyes. Already broken, she shuddered to consider what they'd endured at the hands of Adarlan's forces. Some days she wondered if they would have been better off dying on the butchering blocks instead. Jesus. This book got real dark really fast. We're only on page 4. That's so fucking dark. Oh, whatever we're at. And if she might have been better off dying that night, she'd been betrayed and captured too. She was betrayed. Oh. But she had other things to think about as they continued their walk. Was she finally to be hanged? Sickness coiled in her stomach. She was important enough to warrant an execution from the captain of the royal guard himself. Why bring her inside the building first? At last, they stopped before a set of red and gold glass doors so thick that she couldn't see through them. Captain Westfall jerked his chin at the 2 guards standing on either side of the doors, and they stomped their spears in greeting. The captain's grip tightened until it hurt. He yanked Selena closer. Her feet seemed made of lead as she pulled against him. "You'd rather stay in the mines?" he asked, sounding faintly amused. "Perhaps if I were told what this was all about, I wouldn't feel so inclined to resist." "You'll find out soon enough." Her palms became sweaty. Yes, she was going to die. It had come at last. That'd be a really short book. The doors groaned open to reveal a throne room. A glass chandelier shaped like a grapevine occupied most of the ceiling, spitting seeds of diamond fire onto the windows along the far side of the room. I thought it was just going to be like there was seeds falling from the chandelier or something, like because it was like grapevine. Just got thrown off. I don't remember. Compared to the bleakness outside of those windows, the opulence felt like a slap to the face, a reminder of how much they profited from her labor. And here, the captain of the guard growled, and shoved her with his free hand, finally releasing her. Selena stumbled, her calloused feet slipping on the smooth floor as she straightened herself. She looked back to see another 6 guards appear. 14 guards, plus the captain. The royal guard emblem embroidered on the breast of black uniforms. These were members of the royal family's personal guard, ruthless, lightning swift shoulders trained from birth to protect and kill. She swallowed tightly. Lightheaded and immensely heavy all at once, Selena faced the room. On an ornate redwood throne sat a handsome young man. Her heart stopped as everyone bowed. She was standing in front of the crowned prince of Adralon. So that was just one chapter, and you're still fucking awake. So we'll do another one. I'm hoping this is helping. Do you want me to be quieter? I might go a bit quieter, but I do like Selena. Your Highness, said the captain of the guard. He straightened from a low bow and removed his hood, relieving close-cropped chestnut hair. So now he releases his hood. Okay. The hood had definitely been meant to intimidate her into submission during their walk, as if that sort of trick would work on her. Despite her irritation, she blinked at the sight of his face. He was so young. Captain Westfall was not excessively handsome, but she couldn't help finding the ruggedness of his face and the clarity of his golden brown eyes rather appealing. Okay. She's a simp. Got it. Don't ask me how I found out that word. It was a long talk with Kaminari. She cocked her head, now keenly aware of her wretched dirtiness. This is she? The crown prince of Adarlan asked, and Selena's head whipped around as the captain nodded. Both of them stared at her, waiting for her to bow. When she remained upright, Charles shifted on his feet, and the prince glanced at his captain before lifting his chin a bit higher. Bowed to him indeed. If she was bound for the gallows, she would most certainly not spend the last moments of her life in a groveling submission. Thundering steps issued from behind her as someone grabbed her by the neck. Selena only glimpsed crimson cheeks and a sandy mustache before being thrown to the icy marble floor. Pain slammed through her face, light splintering her vision. Oh, the fuck. You're trying to sleep? Oh, if you weren't trying to sleep, I'd fucking lose my shit. They really fucking did that. They really fucking did that. If they were real, I'd fucking destroy their asses. Her arms ached as her bound hands kept her joints from properly aligning. Though she tried to stop them, tears of pain welded. That is a proper way to greet your future king, the red-faced man snapped at Selena. The assassin hissed, baring her teeth as she twisted her head to look at the kneeling bastard. He was almost as large as her overseer, clothed in reds and oranges that matched his thinning hair. His obsidian eyes glittered as his grip tightened on her neck. If she could move her right arm just a few inches, she could throw him off balance and grab his sword. The shackles dug into her stomach. A fizzling, boiling rage turned her face scarlet. After a too long moment, the crown prince spoke. I don't quite comprehend why you'd force someone to bow when the purpose of the gesture is to display allegiance and respect. Well then, go off. His words were coated with a glorious boredom. Oh, it was more boredom. Boring. Selena tried to pivot a free eye to the prince, but could only see a pair of black leather boots against the white floor. It's clear that you respect me, Duke Parrington, but it's a bit unnecessary to put such an effort into forcing Selena Sadrithan to have the same opinion. You and I know very well she has no love for my family, so perhaps your intent is to humiliate her. He paused and she could have sworn his eyes fell on her face. But I think she's had enough of that. He stopped for another moment, then asked, don't you have a meeting with Endevier's treasurer? I mean, he stopped it, but, like, after too long, I would have fucking attacked that son of a bitch. Mustache. Fucking bitch. I wouldn't want you to be late, especially when you came all this way to meet with him. Understanding the dismissal, her tormentor grunted and released her. Selena peeled her cheek from the marble, but lay on the floor until he stood and left. If she managed to escape, perhaps she'd hunt down this Duke Parrington fellow, then return the warmth of his greeting. Go for it. As she rose, she frowned at the imprint of grit she left behind on the otherwise spotless floor, and the clank of her shackles echoing through the silent room. But she'd been trained to be an assassin since the age of 8, since the day the king of assassins found her half dead on the banks of a frozen river and brought her to his keep. Trained since she was a child. She wouldn't be humiliated by anything, least of all being dirty. Gathering her pride, she tossed her long braid behind a shoulder and lifted her head. Her eyes met those of the prince. Dorian Havillard. I don't know. Smiled at her. It was a polished smile and reeked of court-trained charm. Sprawled across the throne, he had his chin propped by hand on his black doublet. An emblazoned gold rendering of the royal raven occupied the entirety of the chest. His red cloak fell gracefully around him and his throne. Yet there was something in his eyes, strikingly blue, the color of the waters of the southern countries, and the way they contrasted with his raven black hair that made her pause. He was achingly handsome, and couldn't have been older than 20. Princes are not supposed to be handsome. They're sniveling, stupid, repulsive creatures. There are ... This isn't me. How unfair of him to be royal and beautiful. That was all her thoughts. It was in italics. She shifted on her feet as he frowned, surveying her in turn. I thought I asked you to clean her, he said to Captain Westfall, who stepped forward. She'd forgotten there was anyone else in the room. She looked at her rags and stained skin and couldn't suppress the twinge of shame. What a miserable state for a girl of former beauty. At a passing glance, one might think her eyes blue or gray, perhaps even green, depending on her color, on the color of her clothing. Up close, though, these wearing hues were offset by the brilliant ring of gold around her pupils. But it wasn't her golden hair that caught the attention of most. It was her golden hair that caught the attention of most. Hair that still maintained a glimmer of its glory. In short, Selena Sardanthine was blessed with a handful of attractive features that compensated for the majority of average ones. And by early adolescence, she discovered that with the help of cosmetics, these average features could easily match the extraordinary assets. But now, standing before Dorian Hillevard, as little more than a gutter rat. Her face warmed as Captain Westfall spoke. I didn't want to keep you waiting. Oh, I didn't want to keep you waiting, however a freaking guard does it. The Crown Prince shook his head when Charles reached for her. Don't bother with the bath just yet. I can see her potential. The prince straightened, keeping his attention on Selena. I don't believe that we have ever had the pleasure of an introduction, but as you probably know, I am Dorian Hillevard, Crown Prince of Alderaan, perhaps the Crown Prince of most of Aurelia. She ignored the surge of crash of bitter emotions that awoke with the name. And you're Selena Sadronoff fan. I don't know how the fuck to say her last name. Adelon's greatest assassin. Perhaps the greatest assassin in all of Aurelia. He studied her tensed body before he raised his dark, well-groomed brows. You seem a little young. He rested his elbows on his thighs. I've heard some rather fascinating stories about you. How do you find Endeavor after living in such excess in Rifthold? Arrogant ass. I shouldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier, she groaned as her jagged nails cut into her palms. After a year, you seem to be more or less alive. I wonder how that's possible when the average life expectancy in those mines is a month. Quite a mystery, I'm sure. She battered her eyelashes and readjusted her shackles as if they were lace gloves. The Crown Prince turned to his caption. She has somewhat of a tongue, doesn't she? She doesn't sound like a member of the rabble. I should hope not, Selena interjected. Your Highness, Chow Westfall snapped at her. What? You will address him as Your Highness. Selena gave him a mocking smile, then returned her attention to the Prince Dorian. Dorian Helivard, to her surprise, laughed. You do know that you're now a slave, don't you? Has your sentence taught you nothing? Had her arms been unshackled, she would have crossed them. I don't see how working in a mine could teach anything beyond how to use a pickaxe. And you never tried to escape. A slow, wicked smile spread across her lips. Once. The prince's brows rose as he turned to Captain Westfall. I wasn't told that. Selena glanced over her shoulder at Chaw, who gave his prince an apologetic look. The chief overseer informed me this afternoon that there's one incident. 4 months, she interrupted. 4 months, Charlotte said, after Sadrithon arrived. She attempted to flee. She waited for the best part of the story, but he was clearly finished. That's not even the best part. There's a best part, the Crown Prince said, face caught between a wince and a smile. Charles glared at her before speaking. There was no hope of escaping from Endeavor. Your father made sure of that. Made sure that each of Endeavor's sentries could shoot a squirrel from 200 paces away. To attempt to flee is suicide. But you're alive, the prince said to her. Selena's smile faded as the memory struck her. Yes. What happened? Dorian asked. Her eyes turned cold and hard. I snapped. That's all you have to offer as an explanation for what you did? Captain Westfall demanded. She killed her overseer and 23 sentries before they caught her. She was a fingers tipped from the wall before the guards knocked her unconscious. So? Dorian asked. Selena seethed. So? Do you know how far the wall is from the mines? He gave her a blank look. She closed her eyes and sighed dramatically. From my shaft, it was 363 feet. I had someone measure. So? Dorian repeated. Captain Westfall, how far do slaves make it from the mines when they try to escape? 3 feet, he muttered. And Dovier's sentries usually shoot a man down before he's moved 3 feet. The Crown Prince's silence was not her desired effect. You knew it was suicide, he said at last, the amusement gone. Perhaps it had been a bad idea for her to bring her up the wall. For her to bring up the wall. Yes, she said, but they didn't kill you. Your father ordered that I was to be kept alive for as long as possible to endure the misery that Endeavor gives in abundance. A chill that had nothing to do with the temperature went through her. I never intended to escape. The pity in his eyes made her want to hit him. Do you bear many scars? Asked the prince. She shrugged and smiled, forcing the mood to be lifted as he stepped from the dais. Turn around and let me view your back. Selena frowned but obeyed as he walked to her. Charles stepping closer. I can't make them out. Make them out clearly through all this dirt, the prince said, inspecting what skin showed through the scraps of her shirt. She scowled and scowled even more when he said, and what a terrible stench, too. Well, one doesn't have access to a bath and perfume. I suppose I cannot smell as finely as you, your highness. The crown prince clicked his tongue and circled her slowly. Shao and all the guards watched them with hands on their swords, as they should. I would have fucking killed him right then and there. Not actually, because I'm a hero. I don't fucking kill people, but he gets on my nerves. In less than a second, she could get her arms over the prince's head and heave her shackles, crushing his windpipes. It might be worth it just to see the expression on Child's face, but the prince went on, oblivious to how dangerously close he stood to her. Perhaps she'd be insulted. From what I can see, he said, there are 3 large scars, and perhaps some smaller ones. Not as awful as expected, but, well, the dress can cover it, I suppose. Dresses. He was standing so near that she could see the fine thread detail on his jacket and smelled not perfume, but horses and iron. Dorian grinned. What remarkable eyes you have. How angry you are. I'll fucking show you angry. I'll fucking show you angry all day. Sorry. Right. Fuck. Good night. Coming within strangling distance of the crown prince of Adrelon, son of the man who sentenced her to a slow, miserable death, her self-control balanced on a fragile edge, dancing along a cliff. I demand to know, she began, but the captain of the guard pulled her back from the prince with a spine-snapping force. I wasn't going to kill him, you buffoon. Watch your mouth before I throw you back into the mines, the brown-eyed captain said. Oh, I don't think you do that. And why is that? Chow replied. Dorian strode to his throne and sat down, his sapphire eyes bright. She looked from one man to another and squared her shoulders. Because there's something you want from me. Something you want badly enough to come here yourselves. I'm not an idiot, though I was foolish enough to be captured. And I can see that this is some sort of secret business. Why else would you leave the capital and venture this far? You've been testing me all this time to see if I am physically and mentally sound. Well, I know that I'm still sane, and I know that I'm not broken. Despite what the incident at the wall might suggest. So I demand to be told why you're here, and what services you wish of me, if I am not destined for the gallows. The men exchanged glances. Dorian steepled his fingers. I have a proposition for you. Her chest tightened. Never, not in the most fanciful dreams, had she imagined that the opportunity to speak with Dorian Hillevard would arise. She could kill him so easily, tear that grin from his face. She could destroy the king as he had destroyed her. But perhaps his proposition could lead to an escape. If she got beyond the wall, she could make it run and disappear into the mountains and live in solitary in the dark green of the wild with a pine needle carpet and a blanket of stars overhead. She could do it. She just needed to clear the wall. She had come so close before. I'm listening, was all she said. Well, I hope you're asleep because I'm not reading anymore. That was a cliffhanger. Yeah, I'm doing that to you. If you want to read it yourself. It's pretty good, though. I'll read it on my own. I'm going to take the book, by the way. I hope you're asleep, and if you're not, you're just fucking faking it. Whatever. Good night. You shouldn't have woken me up. Because now I'm fucking cranky. But I'm gonna go back to sleep. Because it's late. But I'm glad that I could help you. Good night.